Hi from Gabriele of Statistical, the statistical consulting service that aids small companies mostly, but also organizations to make more rigorous decisions. Is the world getting worse? In many aspects it gets better, but in some no. For example, some kinds of criminality and also the topic of this video. As you see, I collected different kind of columns to answer this kind of question with two approaches. The first columns come from the Uppsala University. They did something very useful that of course I like, and precisely this column comes from this pivot table I built using the column year of the data they provide. Next column, it is the G20 rate of profit. The rate of profit is a Marxist term that also belongs to a theory of crisis. Generally, you don't find a theory of crisis in other economic school of thought unless you find very specific authors that have a theory of crisis. Just to mention one, Minsky. To sum it up, the rate of profit indicates the health level of a capitalist society, and in this case, the health of the G20 countries. The first hypothesis is the less the rate of profit, the more the conflicts. Because if you think about it, in the game of chess we used to do in childhood and not only, where the game arrived at the last rounds, taking a chair also led to some kind of innocent violence, we can call it. In the real world it is not innocent anymore. Next column is the yearly population, and from this column on I put variables that comes, let's say, from biology, because in the animal kingdom we know that violence can come from a too rapid growth of the population or food bottlenecks, mating, and also climate change that here I indicated with temperature anomaly. Here I put also another dimension for the agricultural output. Here it is the increase and here it is the absolute number. This kind of column comes from a Marxist economist that also writes a blog, and in this sheet you can see the chart he put in different articles. I extracted the data with the software, and as you can see my chart is not particularly different from the one of the author. So of course it is not perfect, but it is enough precise. In this data set I documented some things already said, and also the source for each sheet you see down there. The temperature, for example, comes from the NASA website. And mind that this column measures land and ocean. Sometimes you just see land or ocean. For the analysis I didn't use JASP but POSIT. That is a service that allows us to run our code online without installing a software on our computer. And here I installed the library, here I loaded the data, and in this line I did the distribution of one of our explanatory variable, that is the rate of profit of G20 countries. Then I did the chart for the same but for year that you saw also here. Here you see we have a negative trend, and of course you see it more clearly here. Now the fun part, the correlations. I want to remind you that the goal is to understand what makes the world worse in terms of conflicts. So I wanted to find variables that explain why we have more conflicts in the world. Let's do this, the first time of correlation, that is the Spearman method, with this library. Here you see we have a very nice chart, and this is our target variable, and this is like some board games that you cross the variables, you read the value, and you check if there is a significativity with the stars. As you can see, the rate of profit has a very high negative correlation and also significant. That means, according to this method, the higher the conflicts and the lower the rate of profit in G20 countries. Then we have that also the population growth has a negative correlation with the conflicts, but it is less than this one. And then we have a similar value for the agricultural output and temperature anomaly. Is it done? Of course not. If you notice, for example, the correlation between the rate of profit and the yearly population, you notice that it is high. And especially this case and this case have a value that in other occasion I called collinear, because they look higher than 0.75 if we take the absolute numbers. So we have to do something else, that is partial correlations, because otherwise each of these correlations contains also the effect of all the other variables. And if now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 strong significant correlations done with the method of Spearman, with partial correlations you will see something will change. This is the function. Before running the results of this line, I want to remind you that the Spearman correlation is like the linear one of Pearson that almost everybody know, but it is more robust to outliers. So when we run this, we have to check the matrix called p-value, and the p-value in the frequentist approach of inferential statistics is the value that indicates a statistical significance. If below 0.05 it is significant. Now we have to check the column conflicts, that is our target variable, and you see that of course it is significant on itself, but it is meaningless. The only variable with less than 0.05 or equal is, as anticipated, the rate of profit. Everything else is not significant. The naive approach would have led to just picking the year to understand why the number of conflicts increase per year. But this is not a serious approach. The more serious approach is to go to first collect a lot of variables that look more or less reasonable. I say less reasonable because in other videos I might take variables that look too creative, and then check all the columns or variables collected with partial correlations. As you see, this is the only significant variable with the Spearman method. Here I wrote that, and this might surprise you, that I didn't do Bayesian correlation because, as you can see, we have high correlations already with the frequentist approach, and with the Bayesian one it wouldn't change much. So I directly went to do the partial correlation with the frequentist approach. There is also the Bayesian one, but I couldn't find the library, but I find also a bit useless in this case. So this is the final plot of our correlation that is significant, and you can see that there is a significant negative trend, as I explained in words before. Let's try to do the first model just with this significant variable, And we have a model that starts from 102, something that is a bit artificial. That means if we have zero rate of profit, that is something absolutely unthinkable. We have 102 conflicts per year. And we see here the relationship shown in the graph. That is, for each point the rate of profit increase, we get 8.5 less conflicts per year. And this model explains a whopping 73% of the variability of the number of conflicts. So it is a good model. Of course, it might look too high, and I might agree with this skepticism, because maybe I took the wrong target variable inside the Uppsala database. I can check if I just took a variable that made me prove my point. If I go inside this link that they call the codebook, that is the documentation of the data and the meaning of each variable, and I go into this section, I see what each column mean. Another objection is that most of those conflicts happen outside the G20 countries, but the point is that conflicts don't happen inside G20 or another index, but in the countries that provide the raw materials, because in those countries you have different countries that want to get their hands on the resources. This is like a geopolitical argument, if you wish. At this point, the question could become how to increase the rate of profit to avoid or reduce the number of conflicts in the world. And unfortunately, as you can see here, the golden age of capitalism happened right after the Second World War, so in a period of rebuilding. So the first answer to this is that a new global war with mass mobilization will invert the trend of the rate of profit, with all the human costs associated. Now the personal opinions on what I think could improve the rate of profit. And the first one is an energetic miracle, and I refer to nuclear fusion power and to what Bill Gates said in different occasions since many years ago. Second personal opinion is a new eve for space exploration fueled by rivalry. One could say that it didn't work so well from here to here, but my hope is like the first element I said. That means space exploration changes the demand of the economy, and this change of demand increases employment and all the chain of values in a similar way a war with mass mobilization does. For example, a new eve for space exploration could mean a rush to colonize the moon, or to colonize Mars, or to colonize deep space, or to find for a new planet to host human life. To conclude, the revenue of some big companies have link with phenomena bigger than them. For example, I live near what we can consider an industrial military complex of Italy, and I remember one of those big companies posting a job where they looked for a person that can do arms demand. If you think you need the same study for your small company, you can contact me on www.staticalmo.com, and I'll see what I can do for you. Bye, and see you the next time.